The theory was always a lone wolf scenario, but looking at today's surveillance footage changed everything. Evidence suggested a chilling reality. The orchestrator absolutely had help. Tommaso Chioni possessed an utterly spotless background. Not a single arrest shadowed his adult years. Local cops, state troopers, and federal agencies had nothing on him. His file remained a complete ghost town. No convictions, not even a stray parking ticket could be unearthed by the public. He was just an Italian immigrant teaching science under the scorching Tucson sun. He strummed guitars and attended poetry nights alongside his spouse. On the surface, he had meticulously constructed the ultimate picture of suburban tranquility. Digging through every official document available to our investigative team, a clear picture emerges. His paper trail pointed to a model citizen who played strictly by the rules. But nobody knew yet how deep the deception ran. That pristine background became a seemingly impenetrable shield in the court of public opinion. Whenever armchair detectives doubt Tommaso's role in the tragic disappearance of beloved mother Nancy Guthrie, they point straight to that flawless history. A complete void of priors makes it incredibly hard to believe this educator could suddenly graduate to a mastermind of horror. We can concede that fact for a moment. The man lacked a rap sheet, a reality fully verified and noted. Yet one vital mystery remains frustratingly unexamined. Who exactly was lurking in the shadows of Tommaso's inner circle? Federal authorities know that intricate plots involving heavy surveillance, leaked secrets, and tactical precision rarely happen in a vacuum. These sinister transactions demand a web of accomplices. Evidence suggested there had to be at least a second player involved. They needed a trusted insider seeking a payday. The real focus shouldn't just be on the science teacher's actions. It is about his darkest alliances, the accomplices who would answer a panicked call at 2 a.m. with zero hesitation, who possessed intimate access to his household dynamics, penetrating the safety of his domestic sphere. Someone mapped out personal habits that internet maps could never reveal, and that phantom finally has an identity. Enter Dominic Aaron Evans, thrust into the spotlight of this investigation. But to understand the accomplice, we must first dissect the architect. Originating from Italy, the suspect crossed the ocean to plant permanent roots in the arid landscape of Arizona. He pursued education, passing rigorous state screenings and institutional background checks with flying colors. He wed Valentina, intertwining his fate with her mother, Nancy. To outsiders, their union appeared deeply loving and completely stable. Neighbors and friends recalled a vibrant pair heavily immersed in local cultural events. They frequented local gigs, weaving themselves into a tight-knit community that radiated suburban normality. The educator even co-founded a local band. Keep that detail in mind, because it changes everything later. Web sleuths rushed to fill the void, immediately pointing fingers at an alleged crippling gambling addiction as the primary motive. This rumor caught fire, dominating chat rooms and true crime forums overnight. The narrative insisted he was drowning in financial ruin, directly linking Nancy's sudden vanishing to his desperate need for cash. Yet, hard journalistic digging quickly dismantled that convenient storyline. Deep dives into his financial records painted a different reality. Outlets like the Hindustan Times debunked the rumors completely. The massive gambling debt was a sheer fabrication, spun out of control by internet hysteria. His bank statements lacked the catastrophic red ink required to trigger the ruthless kidnapping of his own mother-in-law. Destroying that financial motive is absolutely critical to cracking this mystery wide open. The money angle provided a neat, easily digestible package for a public hungry for answers. Greed driving a desperate man to commit atrocities is a tale as old as time. Removing greed from the equation leaves a terrifying void. Why would a man with everything orchestrate such pure darkness? If the teacher harbored no personal vendetta, the implications become incredibly sinister. It forces us back to the central, haunting question. Who else was pulling the strings? We must confront the infamous power of attorney paperwork, replacing the internet's wild speculation with cold, hard facts. Web detectives obsessed over legal documents bearing the family name that suddenly leaked into the public sphere. Armchair experts aggressively pushed the idea that shady, backroom dealings were quietly dismantling the estate. They viewed the real estate signatures as a grim, prophetic blueprint for Nancy's eventual, tragic fate. However, verified experts analyzed the paperwork and declared it painfully mundane. Such property authorizations are drafted thousands of times a day across the country. Citizens routinely authorized them before flying overseas or facing a major medical procedure. It was simply a backup plan for daily life. The forms lacked a single clue pointing toward an impending, calculated abduction. That merely proved he secured legal counsel, rather than orchestrating an elaborate scheme. Strip away the wild gambling rumors and financial control theories. What remains is a chillingly stark reality based strictly on verified facts. Authorities officially named Tommaso Chioni the primary person of interest regarding his own mother-in-law vanishing completely. The man possesses a spotless record. No apparent motive exists. He simply vanished behind a constitutional wall of absolute public silence. Federal agents suspect meticulous premeditation. Evidence suggested someone brokered household secrets, while Chioni maintained a remarkably tight-knit crew. We must scrutinize the exact words utilized by the Bureau. Forget internet rumors. We are analyzing documented statements. This goes far beyond basement conspiracies. These are genuine law enforcement declarations fueling an active manhunt. They form the terrifying bedrock of the narrative unraveling next. The Bureau made their stance crystal clear regarding Nancy Guthrie. This horrific ordeal was absolutely not perpetrated by an unknown drifter. She didn't stumble into harm. This was never a tragic consequence of being in the wrong spot. Officials assert that taking Nancy required cold choreography. That sinister blueprint allegedly relied on purchasing highly sensitive details about her private sanctuary. News outlets repeatedly cited a chilling phrase from federal authorities regarding this probe. Someone was literally paid to leak intimate intelligence. They brokered the physical estate. They sold the humans. These secrets belonged exclusively to a trusted confidant. Only individuals possessing unguarded, repeated access to the Guthrie family held such knowledge. Pause and truly digest those terrifying logistical implications. Brokering intelligence about a secluded home requires a formal exchange. A literal transaction had to occur in the shadows. One party desperately required those structural secrets. They brought cold cash to secure that map. On the other side stood a traitor, a person willing to monetize their personal access. That leaked intelligence proved devastatingly precise enough to warrant payment. Criminals never finance vague guesswork. They strictly bankroll actionable vulnerabilities. Which secrets fetch premium underworld prices? The home's architectural footprint, hidden blind spots, and the exact placement of their security lenses. Confirming the alarm network's existence. Pinpointing the master keypad coordinates needed to blindly disable it. Are canine guards patrolling? Which cars occupy the driveway nightly? And what shadowed pathways guarantee a totally undetected approach? Yet brick-and-mortar logistics barely scratch the surface. The psychological profiling held infinitely more sinister, devastating value. At what precise hour did Nancy depart? What exact rhythms guided her dawn and dusk? Which acquaintances dropped by unannounced? When was the beloved matriarch absolutely guaranteed to be utterly and helplessly isolated inside? Did their daily cadence expose a perfectly timed gap, a fleeting moment where defenses crumbled entirely? You cannot scrape those habits from county databases. A casual stalker parked outside for a few hours would never notice them. This required profound, microscopic familiarity. Such devastating insight stems solely from standing intimately within those very private walls over time. From pacing the lawn, from being welcomed indoors repeatedly. Evidence suggested this informant soaked up fatal vulnerabilities that a typical intruder entirely misses. They were an accepted inner circle member, not a random thug. The syndicate didn't blindly solicit local gang members lacking deep, pre-existing family ties. Someone lounging comfortably inside their protective bubble traded sacred loyalty for profit. Yet, the Bureau remains agonizingly tight-lipped regarding this mole's identity. If agents pinpointed the traitor, that moniker sits buried deep within classified dossiers. It likely anchors a looming federal indictment. Perhaps investigators are still unraveling that delicate strand. Authorities guard unsealed evidence fiercely, forcing us to rely purely on behavioral outlines. The shadow is unmistakable. A beloved confidant holding keys, seduced by a clandestine payout. That silhouette excludes any wandering phantom. It aligns perfectly with a familiar face, intimately threaded into the devastated home's daily heartbeat. Early Black, the band they built, Bolty. In 2007, Tommaso Chioni co-launched this specific musical group. Operating out of Tucson, Arizona, they chased serious dreams. This was far from a fleeting distraction. The men committed to grueling creative grinds. They produced studio tracks, maintained digital footprints, and forged histories. Their brotherhood endured relentless industry pressures. Establishing that 2007 timeline remains absolutely crucial. That specific era anchors their bond 15 long years prior to Nancy vanishing. We aren't examining a superficial, modern acquaintance. They didn't just cross paths weeks before tragedy struck. This alliance wasn't hastily forged simply to orchestrate a premeditated abduction. We are witnessing a profoundly authentic brotherhood. Two artists cultivated a shared vision, nurturing their fierce loyalty across a decade and a half. Drumming for Early Black was Dominic Aaron Evans. Not some disposable hired gun, he wasn't some late addition to the group. He was there from day one. He molded the sound, cementing his name into the very foundation of Tommaso's musical legacy. People entirely misunderstand the bond between bandmates. It's so easy for the public to underestimate it. They aren't mere acquaintances. They aren't just guys you casually nod to at a party. It requires relentless closeness. You sweat in cramped garages and survive grueling highway miles side by side. You handle the messy reality of art, the cash, the gear, the relentless calendar crunches that demands constant talk. You break bread with their families, embedding into their daily lives like brothers. Over 17 long years of that intense dynamic, evidence suggested Dominic held secrets about Tommaso's private world that only blood relatives ever uncovered. He knew Valentina. He knew Nancy. He mapped the quiet, daily geography of their private properties. He wasn't playing private detective, but 2 decades of absolute trust does that. You absorb their universe. Did Evans breach the Guthrie home? Did his physical presence fuel the federal inside job theory? That remains a chilling question for detectives. We lack the hard paperwork placing him at those exact, targeted locations. We aren't making that claim, but the underlying structural reality is utterly impossible to ignore. Tommaso and Dominic shared a profound, unbreakable bond spanning decades. It's the exact type of sustained intimacy that hands someone the dangerous blueprint to another's life. Yet nobody publicly questioned if that dark connection held the key. Dominic Aaron Evans. Let's review the hard evidence regarding his past. The man played the drums. He helped launch Early Black alongside Tommaso back in 2007 out in Tucson. Their verified link is absolute fact. But Dominic also hid a dark, documented criminal past. JLR Investigates pulled his file on X, digging straight into Pima County court archives. These aren't sketchy internet rumors. These are stone-cold, official public documents. Real charges, real verdicts, sitting openly within the files of Pima County, Arizona. Evans faced charges for felony burglary, robbery, theft, embezzlement, and driving under the influence. We need to break these down. They vary wildly, and some hold terrifying implications for this mystery. Burglary, a major felony charge. Arizona defines this as illegally breaching a building to offend. First-degree residential is a Class 2 felony. It ranks among the absolute highest property offenses in their entire legal system. It demands stealth. You must plan the breach, target the valuables, and ghost through undetected. A convicted burglar calculates the dangerous risks of infiltrating forbidden, locked-down spaces. That requires a very particular chilling skill set. Then there's robbery, an entirely different, more violent beast. Burglars strike empty rooms. Robbers use brute force, staring directly into their terrified victims' eyes. This conviction proves that at some dark moment in Dominic's documented past, he crossed the line into direct confrontation. He actively terrified or hurt another human being. Theft just completes this disturbing, multi-layered pattern of taking what doesn't belong to him. A rap sheet featuring burglary, robbery, and theft isn't a simple mistake. It exposes a cold, calculated career in ongoing property crime. Embezzlement. That's the glaring red flag demanding our absolute focus in this chilling narrative, not because it carries the heaviest prison sentence, but because of how the betrayal works. Faceless strangers don't embezzle from you. A victim has to implicitly trust their embezzler. You need inside access. Someone hands you the keys to their kingdom out of pure faith. And then, you weaponize that trust. You strip them blind from the inside out. Exploiting trusted access for dirty money perfectly mirrors the FBI profile. They hunted a paid mole, but nobody knew yet who was pulling the strings. Same exact playbook, same terrifying mindset. The driving motive perfectly aligns. Legally, one path just gets labeled embezzlement. But the darker path? That ends with a horrific charge detectives are still too paralyzed to formally file. Toss in a driving under the influence conviction. It might just be a traffic violation, but it brutally completes the picture. Look closer at Dominic Evans. His Pima County rap sheet reveals a relentless, sprawling history rooted deeply in property breaches. Add ruthless physical assaults, financial ruin, and reckless driving. That is not some minor rap sheet. That is a glaring pattern. But let me be perfectly clear about our claims. We are not explicitly accusing Dominic of vanishing sweet, beloved Nancy Guthrie. We aren't naming him as the federal informant. We are not calling him the mastermind or the muscle behind this nightmare. The smoking gun simply isn't there yet. Justice demands far more than bad vibes in a rap sheet. We refuse to manufacture fake certainty. But we will say this, loud and clear. The feds released a terrifyingly specific profile for this betrayal. A trusted insider, someone bought and paid for. Enter Tommaso Chioni. His closest, oldest confidant harbors a dark past of breaching physical properties, and he routinely exploits inside trust for cold cash. All happening right inside the exact same county. This isn't an outright accusation. It is a chilling pattern. We expose these shadows to force a broken system to act, to make badge-wearing cops actually do their jobs. Did a single detective formally sit Dominic down and demand the brutal truth about Nancy? Based on every public document, the answer is a sickening no, leaving us caught between love and murder. But there is one final, haunting puzzle piece. It might lack courtroom weight, but you simply cannot ignore it. You cannot unsee it once you grasp the full horror. Their band, Early Black, dropped a record. This wasn't a temporary placeholder. It was a calculated, deliberate title printed for the whole world to witness. A bloody phrase debated, agreed upon, and stamped permanently across the album sleeve. The title? Life, Love, Love, Murder. Sure, musicians romanticize darkness. Nick Cave literally built an empire on murder ballads. Tom Waits spun entire records out of grit and blood. Southern Gothic thrives on it. Entire genres exist just to explore the blackest, most twisted corners of human depravity. Violence sells. Dropping the word murder on an album cover is not an automatic confession or a bloody warning sign. Creatives push heavy boundaries. They naturally crave the extreme. We get that, but this is no vacuum. A beloved woman vanished. The feds swear a paid rat leaked her family's secrets. And the primary suspect? He founded the very band that released an album called Life. Love, Love, Murder. And his founding partner? The original drummer hides a sprawling criminal past loaded with felony burglary, robbery, embezzlement. When you zoom out and look at the brutal whole, that album title stops being just an edgy artistic choice. It screams at you. It aggressively defies simple coincidence. It begs a terrifying question that a failing police force refuses to openly answer. What dark secrets were these two whispering through their music, long before detectives started demanding answers? The ultimate blind spot, and here we sit, while Nancy Guthrie remains tragically missing. Evidence suggested a calculated hit, not random chaos. The feds believe a paid insider laid the sinister groundwork. Tommaso Chioni, the son-in-law, the ultimate person of interest. This focal point has zero record, zero proven motive, and zero public statements. But Tommaso is far from alone. He runs with a specific crowd, and the oldest, most tightly knit shadow lurking inside his inner circle? His original drummer, Dominic Aaron Evans. A guy whose Pima County rap sheet kicks off with felony burglary, armed robbery, grand theft, embezzlement, add a driving under the influence charge, all spanning the exact same stomping grounds through a dark brotherhood forged back in 2007. Yet mainstream media refuses to utter Dominic's name. Search the official case files, and you will find absolutely nothing. Online sleuths missed him. Major media ignored him completely. On paper, this man is practically a ghost. But that changes today. Evidence suggests we cannot disconnect Dominic Evans from Nancy's devastating vanishing. Because his violent rap sheet, his undeniable ties to Tommaso, and his lingering in the exact county where she disappeared demand to be dragged into the light. It belongs stamped in the official file. If the feds already interrogated Dominic, the public deserves answers. What exactly did he whisper in that room? Did his alibi actually hold up under pressure? Did Tommaso Chioni's name echo in those halls? And do detectives truly believe his profile matching the FBI informant theory is blind luck? But what if authorities never even questioned him? If Dominic Aaron Evans remains totally absent from the official cold case murder book, then this stands as damning proof of a catastrophic systemic failure by the very badges sworn to protect her. Sweet Nancy Guthrie is still missing. Her devastated family waits in agonizing silence. And whoever buried her secrets wakes up breathing free air every single day, completely untouched by the law. Not yet, anyway. Every dark web has a center. Every cold case holds a hidden perimeter. And lurking just outside the shadows of Nancy's final moments, someone knows much more than they ever admitted. We are watching. This isn't just a cold case buried in a forgotten file. This is a mother, a daughter, a family shattered beyond recognition. Nancy Guthrie laughed. She loved. She woke up every morning trusting the people who surrounded her most closely. And that trust, that beautiful, devastating human instinct, may have been the very weapon used against her. This is the terrifying lesson hiding inside every unsolved case the system quietly abandons. Monsters rarely look like monsters. They strum guitars. They teach children. They smile at neighborhood barbecues and attend poetry nights under the stars. They eat at your table. They know your alarm code. They know exactly which window faces the darkness. Every unsolved case is a silent verdict against a system that stopped asking hard questions too early. A system that let paperwork pile up while a devastated family waited by a phone that never rang with good news. We owe Nancy more than sympathy. We owe her relentless, unforgiving pursuit of the truth, no matter how deep the shadows run. Because somewhere out there, someone still knows exactly what happened. And silence protects only the guilty. If you know anything about Nancy Guthrie's disappearance, the FBI tip line is open. The family is still waiting. Justice doesn't have an expiration date. And neither does the truth. We are not done. We are watching. And we will not stop.